5% as a fraction is not terribly time consuming. It looks like this. 5% is the same thing as 5%, but in math, the word per means divide, and cent, like century, means 100. 5 divided by 100 is 0.05. That is the answer. So 8% would be 0.08. I move the decimal point each time to the left 2 places because there are 2 zeros in the number 100. 19% would be 0.19. 2.7% would be 0.027. Notice each time the decimal point and the percent moves to the left 2 places, to the left 2 places, to the left 2 places. And that's all it is. So in this problem, we are supposed to write a percent as a decimal and then do the opposite process on a decimal number. A moment ago, we learned how to handle 126%. And that was to take the decimal point and move it to the left 2 places so that we end up with 1.26. For part A, we are being asked to do the reverse process. So we will take 0.004 and move the decimal point to the right 2 places, yielding 0.4%. So to make it a percent, we move the decimal point to the right. And to remove it from being a percent, we move the decimal point to the left. The easy way that I remember to do this is to say, well, I know that 1/2 of something is 50% of that something. And then I say, okay, if I start with a percent and I want to make it a decimal, what am I doing in this simple equation? I would be moving my decimal point in the number 50 to the left if I want to take a percent and change it to a decimal. And then if I'm going the opposite direction, I do the opposite process. Move the decimal point 2 to the right so that I end up with 50, as in 50%. And that's the way I remember it. To find 44% of 35, we would translate from English to math. 44%, as we saw, can be written as 0.44. 35 is just 35, and the word of means multiplication. So we just need to multiply them. And upon doing that, we get, boy, that gets old, 15.4. And that's it. Remember, of means multiply, and write your percents as decimals. And that will make it so much easier. Similar to what we just did, we will translate from English to math. On the first one, we have 76.8% of what is 40.32. So 76.8%. Oh, but we don't write percents as percents when we're using them. We move the decimal point 2 places to the left to get a decimal rather than a percent. So 0.768 of means multiplication. What number is means equals 40.32. So everything in the sentence was translated. I see where this number ends up there. I see that the of becomes multiplication. I see that what becomes the variable I'm trying to solve for, the question mark, is yields the equal sign. And the easiest part, 40.32 translates directly. So now I have an equation with a single variable. So I do what I always do in equations. I divide both sides by 0.768, the coefficient of the variable. And then those guys cancel and I get 52.5. Now at this point, we should think about whether or not the answer seems reasonable. We are looking for 76.8% of something is 40.32. So we're looking for about 3/4 of something is 40.32. So whatever we're looking for, it should be bigger than 40.32, so that 3/4 of it is only 40.32. But it shouldn't be massively larger either. And 52.5 seems like a reasonable answer upon thinking about that. Let's do part B. 20.4 is means equals. What means the variable. Of means multiplication. And 17 is right there. So to solve for the variable, I'll divide both sides by 17 so that I can cancel the 17s. And 20.4 divided by 17 is 1.2. However, the question on part B asked for what percent. Therefore, I need to write this number as a percent. So to convert this to a percent, like we saw before, I would move the decimal point to the right 2 places and end up with 120%. So that makes sense. 20.4 is 120% of 17 because it's 17 and a little bit more, 20% more, in fact. That is how these kinds of problems are done. Just translate from English to math. On this one, the chocolate bar is 69% cocoa. In other words, 69% of it is cocoa. Well, the entire bar weighs 57 grams. So that means that 69% of those 57 grams is chocolate. 69% of the weight of the bar is actually cocoa. And that would be 39.33. And because it's a word problem, we include the units. 39.33 grams out of the 57 is actually cocoa. So all I did, once again, was translate exactly what we knew. I know that 69% of the 57 grams is cocoa. So if I take 69% of the 57 grams and translate that into an algebraic expression, it looks like that. And that's all you have to do. So we have a $50 item and tax is only 5%. So how much would you be paying in tax? So I think we can all agree that the tax that we pay is 5% of the $50. So we translate that into math. 5% of $50 is $2.50. That's it. That's all you got to do. This time, we know the original price of the item, and we also know how much tax you'll be paying. So the question is, what is that percent of tax? Well, I think we can all agree that we could do this. $21.60 is some percent, or, oh, that's bad, of $360. And I apologize for the incredibly terrible penmanship. That's what closed captionings are for. But that is the gist of the problem. So let's just translate that into math. So 2160 is some percent of 360. And when we divide both sides by 360, we get 0.06. Now, the question did say, write your answer as a percentage, because that's just what you usually do when you're talking about tax rates. So to take a decimal, turn it back into a percent, we take the decimal point and move it to the right 2 decimal places. And we get 6%, which is the current tax rate in Idaho.